Hey everyone! Imagine stumbling on a picture that looks like it came straight out of an alternate timeline. A wartime T-34 hull wearing the rounded, egg-shaped turret of a much newer T-62. At first, it feels like someone's Photoshop prank or a modeler's fever dream. But the more you dig, the more that odd, welded-together hybrid keeps turning up in photos and forum posts. And it points to a small, practical, and strangely poetic chapter of Cold War improvisation in Bulgaria. This is the story of the T-34 with a T-62 turret, a machine that never fit any manual, but fit a purpose: war thunder. Official forums start with the image. A T-34-85 hull, low, sloped, unmistakably Second World War, with a much larger, rounded T-62 turret squatting on top. The proportions are wrong. The turret ring looks oversized, and in many of the photos, the vehicle sits half-buried, immobile. Its engine compartment plated over. Skeptics will say Photoshop. But multiple pictures exist from different angles, posted by different users across hobby forums and photo galleries. The same machine keeps reappearing in Bulgarian contexts. That consistency is the first clue that this was no one-off fantasy. Reddit. So how do we get from a wartime medium tank to a Cold War Frankenstein? For that, you need to understand two simple facts. First, by the 1960s-70s, many Warsaw Pact armies still had large numbers of T-34 hulls in reserve. Cheap, plentiful, and already dug in some places as static defenses. Second, Bulgaria, which bought substantial numbers of T-62s in the 1970s, also experimented a lot with field modifications and reuse of older equipment. Put those together, and the logic is ugly but practical. Take surplus, obsolete hulls and give them a second life as stationary pillboxes by bolting on newer turrets you no longer wanted on frontline mobile tanks. What the surviving accounts and hobbyist investigations suggest is not a factory standard upgrade, but a field or local reconstruction. The T-62 turret would have its bearing plate cut out, and the T-34's turret ring enlarged or rebuilt with welded plates and spacer rings, so the big turret could sit on the narrow T-34 hull. The engine and drivetrain were often removed or left inoperable, and the hull lowered into a dug-in position. The whole assembly was essentially a fixed bunker, with a powerful 115mm gun sitting where a 76 or 85mm turret once stood. In short, mobility sacrificed for firepower and economy. Technically, this is messy. The T-62 turret and gun are heavier and designed for a larger, stronger hull. The T-34 ring and supporting deck plates weren't meant to carry that mass or absorb the 115mm gun's recoil in the way an intact T-62 chassis would. That helps explain why so many of these hybrids were not made to drive. You either need to lengthen and strengthen the hull, move engine components, and rework suspension, an expensive and time-consuming job, or you accept a static installation. The Bulgarians, according to the most consistent reports, chose the latter in many cases. Immobile, dug-in defenses that could bring a more modern gun to bear from a cheap, already available hull. Why do this? The colder, unattractive logic of small militaries and tight budgets explains a lot. Tanks that are obsolete in mobile warfare still make excellent hardpoints if you want to turn countryside into a defensive belt. Bulgaria's geography, its NATO-Turkey border concerns during the Cold War, and its possession of both T-34s and later T-62s created a perfect storm where improvisation made sense. Weld a modern turret to an outdated hull, dig it in, and you've got a pillbox that's cheap to build and hard to ignore. Forums and modelers who trace these photos back point clearly to Bulgarian sites and discussions of dug-in tanks, indicating localized, practical solutions rather than formal doctrinal programs. But improvisation breeds stories, and stories breed contradictions. Some posts claim these hybrids were ever mobile after modification. Others insist they were strictly immobile. Some say turrets were cut in half or shortened. Others show photos where a near-full T-62 turret sits in place. Archaeology on the internet, bits of forum text, a photograph, a scale modeler's build log, is how we build a narrative here. And that means being honest about gaps. We can say with confidence that these T-34/T-62 hybrids existed in Bulgarian service as dug-in defensive machines. We cannot yet produce a single authoritative military procurement record that spells out who ordered them, how many were built, or exactly when the modification program, if it was formalized, began and ended. Let's look at the human layer. For the soldiers and engineers who carried out these alterations, the task was practical, not glamorous. You can imagine a small workshop at a regional repair plant, men with welding rigs and angle grinders, a stack of spare turrets, and a line of T-34 hulls waiting to be dug into prepared pits. No one wrote a press release about it. No one made a brochure. What survives is the machine itself, photographed by a passerby or a hobbyist, posted to a forum, and later picked up by modelers and writers trying to reconstruct the moment. That's why the story reads like detective work. And then there's the cultural detail. These hybrids are weirdly poetic. The T-34 is the powered memory of World War II, sleek, sloped armor, a symbol of mass mobilization, while the T-62 turret is the blunt instrument of the Cold War. Higher caliber, modern smoothbore, born in the age of stabilized guns and ballistic arrays. When they meet, welded and stationary, you get a single object that tells a longer story about continuity and change in Eastern European militaries. Old stock reused, new technology grafted on, resources stretched, and an acceptance that sometimes the best answer is not to build new, but to recombine what you already have. So what should you remember from this little mystery? First, the T-34/T-62 hybrids are real artifacts of a pragmatic era. Small, local answers to big geopolitical anxieties. Second, the photos and forum threads we have are fragments. They show purpose, but not policy. And third, the machine itself is emblematic. War machines are not only built for smashing. Sometimes they are built for economy, for deterrence, for making a border look more dangerous than it is. That's a different kind of warfare, logistical and psychological. And the welded together T-34 with T-62 turret sites right at its center.